Woo.
That's exactly. Woo. Viggy, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be back.
Welcome back. I like having. I hope to continue to have people. I like checking in with people over the time. Now with a new book that you hinted at our last time we recorded. I think I'm gonna start doing this. Can you keep a quick elevator pitch on the book?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it's called A Veritable Household Pet. The cover is right here. And the short version is it's about a patient who gets a lobotomy at the age of 11. And this follows her life, but it's also about her sister's life. And her sister acts as her caretaker and the scribe for her story. And I don't want to give away more than that.
I think that's, I don't know. I feel like it would do the book a disservice to give away more than that. I don't know. I wholeheartedly recommend the book.
Thank you.
No, I've read nothing else like it ever, especially with the way it shows Darla and Ellie and how you write. It's not a conversation. It's a conversation, but it's not really a conversation. It's like a one-sided conversation, which is very emblematic of their relationship, I would say. Mm-hmm. And that's the first question I really have for you I would call it, it's not a back and forth. It's a call and response, I guess, because you have Ellie's version of events for what she can remember. And then you have, Darla's version of events, and then Ellie responding to her.
Right.
And I promise not to try and get the characters reversed too many times, but did the book always look like this? Was it always, we're gonna have Darla, who's been given a lobotomy, and then her sister's comments, her version? Was it always that way in your head, or as you were working, did it change at all?
Well, before I ever started writing, I knew I wanted to write about a patient who had a lobotomy. As I did a lot of research about it, I realized that the lobotomy would probably have made the patient unable to tell the story in the kind of detail that I wanted to tell it. So I thought of having a scribe would allow for filling in the blanks and making it a lot more linear, make it make sense. Because the thing I wanted above all else was to make this as realistic as possible. And I couldn't have somebody in there saying, I had a lobotomy, but using all these big words and telling the story that I wanted to tell. So once I started writing, this was always the structure, but it started out just being Darla's story.
Right. It's, I don't know, there is a little bit of like a Flowers for Algernon thing in there a little bit, just because it's from the perspective of someone who is not fully mentally capable in specific ways. But it's also much more, I don't know, Flowers for Algernon is insidious at times, but this is insidious in a very different way. And I don't know. We're going to get to, in your afterward, you mentioned how you people might not call this a horror book. Mm-hmm. And I do want to talk about that. But you mentioned having to write Darla, someone who's had a lobotomy, and how that's whenever you write, I don't know, I have only encountered it when I've tried to write children, where you're like, oh, well, they're not going to use big words, but how do you tackle someone with different kind of intelligence than a normal adult? Did you have to fiddle with that a lot, with what Darla was capable of? I know you said you've done lots of research and it's very evident, but was that a back and forth too of like, well, Darla would be this smart at this point? Did you have to fudge the numbers at any point for that?
It wasn't easy, I will say that. They actually used to call lobotomy a surgically induced childhood. So yeah, I tried to make her voice kind of childlike, because in a way she was kind of arrested in her development at age 11. So I wanted to keep that going throughout. And to get the voice as accurate as I could, I read a memoir by a lobotomy patient. It's called My Lobotomy by Howard Dully. It was an amazing book, and it's nonfiction. And it was just as horrifying as any horror book I've ever read. and I used his voice a little bit in terms of the ways he would phrase things, the ways he would provide insight and look back on his situation. So I used that as a guide for how much she would able to be how much she would comprehend and be able to kind of communicate what she went through and how she was feeling.
Okay. That's a I was there a I don't want to spoil certain things that happened to her, but when she does encounter specific mostly social cues, it feels
Mhm.
like, to varying degrees of extremity, did you have that in mind of like, this is how she will react, or was that also like, oh well, were you finding out how she would react as you were writing?
Yes, this book was completely pantsed. I've
Okay.
plotted books in the past, but this one I kind of knew what I was writing towards, but I didn't necessarily know how I was going to get there. So I'd sit down and I'd just start writing. And I mean, she surprised me a lot. I feel like sometimes when you write a character, they do things that you don't expect them to do. They do things you don't necessarily even want them to do. So as I was writing, she told me what she was capable of. And I know that sounds kind of pretentious, but that is what it felt like.
I mean, sometimes that's I feel like a lot of writers understand that, but if
Mhm.
anyone who's just a reader is listening, that I mean, sometimes I don't think it feels pretentious saying it out loud, but sometimes it is like your character is like, oh, they did. Why did they do that? I wrote it. I didn't even. It's not conscious. Like when you're channeling that, it's like I don't know. I think it's why people sometimes lapse into, oh, it feels like magic. It feels like
Yeah.
supernatural. And you're like, well, I don't know. Your brains are complicated. Um, and that I think tying directly into Veritable Household Pet, brains are complicated.
So
Um,
complicated.
yes. I think in connected to that, because I know you did a lot of research into real lobotomies, and there's so much, uh, from what I understand, just only from my own, uh, brief research into it years ago. Was there Darla's capabilities? I know that lobotomies affect people in drastically different
Mhm.
ways. Was that also like you just found out how much it affected Darla, or is that also mechanical? Like, oh well, she needs to be able to tell a story at least to some
Mhm.
degree. Was that in mind?
Yes, and you're right. I mean, there was no way to predict how a lobotomy would affect somebody because they basically just stick an ice pick in your brain and go like this.
Yeah, there's not.
So
It's like, yeah, it's science, but there's like, oh, we're going to target a certain part of your brain, and we're just going to
right.
destroy it.
Yeah, so nobody would really know. So I had a lot of freedom in how I could depict her because there were lobotomy patients who never spoke again, completely disabled. And there were lobotomy patients like Howard Dully, who had the memoir, who lived a relatively normal life. And interestingly, with Howard Dully, he was lobotomized at age 12 and my character at age 11. And when he was older, he got a scan to kind of see what damage was still in his brain. And you could clearly see where the ice pick had gone in. And the researchers found that his brain had adapted around the damage because he was so young, which is why he was able to live a relatively normal life after. So I kind of used that as a model a little bit for Darla, since she is also very, very young when she gets her surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it never breaks the suspension of disbelief. At least not for me. Like I think it's the I don't know. There is that. I would say, were you worried about ever broaching, like, I don't know, or offending people by, oh, I'm writing a brain damaged person. How do I do this delicately?
Absolutely. I mean, that's something I feel like any writer is always worried about, especially when you're writing horror. I think it's sometimes impossible not to offend at least somebody,
Yeah.
but I wanted to create empathy for this character and understanding. I'm not trying to make fun of her. I'm not trying to ridicule her. I'm trying to present a realistic scenario and have people feel and think. And I want those to be sad emotions, yeah, but positive, building empathy, not tearing somebody else down.
Yeah. I mean, I feel it's a very delicate
Mhm.
line there where, like, I don't know. And I don't know. I think the book does a very good job at that.
Thank you.
I mean, I was heartbroken by by a lot of it. And like, even for I mean, Darla is clearly a sympathetic figure.
Mhm.
She's like basically a victim her entire life, and has no power for most of it either. But I even, there's sympathy for Ellie.
Mm.
You understand. I don't know. There is like this, uh inherent mystery, I guess, that I think I thought of and then forgot about and then remembered again about like, well, who are they writing to? Like that's there's a question there that I will not spoil, but it made me go, well, who's she? Like, because multiple times Ellie's like, she's like, well, you have to understand. You no, please don't judge me too harshly. Like, it's very much like, well, this is yes, I ended up treating her like a pet at certain points, like this, and you're like, well, I think you intrinsically do put yourself into Ellie's shoes. Where you're like, well, I can't imagine that'd be a really hard life to live, where you're a caretaker for your own sister, starting basically as she was herself a child, because her parents were incapable. Oh boy, parents. A lot of parenthood in this book. a lot of toxic parenthood. Which is great. It's wonderful. So you just, and this is not necessarily in the text, but this is something that I think I am really interested to talk to you about, because you say, let me pull up the exact quote because it's in the afterword, and I really liked it. It's the first thing you say. You say, "For a long time, I've been urging people to view horror as something other than a bloody monolith," and it says on the cover, a horror novel. And I just interviewed Caitlin Starling for Grace Street Patient, and it's also a medical horror book. Very different books, though. Very different. Both very good, and I love them both, but your book is much more quiet and melancholy and sad, and much less. There are these little spots of intense violence, but largely it is not about that. It's about like kind of quiet misery, I would say.
Yeah.
Are you worried about that reaction of people going, "Oh, this isn't a horror book. Why are you calling it a horror book?"
I feel like I'm always a little bit worried about that, because I think, especially if I'm talking to somebody who doesn't read a lot of horror and I say, "Oh, I write horror." If they like that, they're like, "Oh, tell me about it." But if they don't, then if they think of horror as just, bloody, gory, that's too scary, that's not for me. I get a little bit nervous about that, because trying to explain what this book is, there's a lot. It's more literary, it's more psychological, it's more realistic, it's historical. It's about a lot more. I mean, there's no blood. Not really. There's no
Not really,
gore.
no.
It is very quiet. And I think more and more we're seeing readers embrace different types of horror and different types of stories, because horror, I think, is the broadest genre imaginable. I think it's in everything. And I think we've talked about this before. So I want people to understand that horror can look really different, because the horror in this, to me, is the loss of control, the loss of autonomy, the loss of identity. I find that terrifying. And this way, I just wanted to present it more realistically than if we have something supernatural, which I also love, but that just wasn't the vibe for this book.
No, I mean, I think that's I think most horror writers at this point have this experience of, I certainly do, just from talking to people at like a convention or something, where they're like, "Oh, I don't read horror." I'm like, "Well, why not? Why not?" And they're like, "Well, it's scary, or it's too bloody." And I'm like, "Well, let me push back on that a little bit. What is scary? What does that mean to you? Like, really, is it like, oh, is this jumps? Is it someone throwing a cat at the camera, like in a bad 80s horror movie? Is it someone getting their leg broken in a really graphic way? Well, yeah, those things can be scary, but they're not. There's other things, big existential loss of identity, loss of power. Those kinds of threats are also scary, and I think nowadays, I think a lot of horror readers are, I think, slowly understanding horror is a broad genre, and I try to be inclusive to what horror is, not exclusive to what horror is. And I don't know. Again, it's not, I don't know. It's not like cat and mouse harrowing violence, but it is. I don't know. I compare it in feeling to something like Our Wives Under the Sea I read last year, and that's also very quiet, there's these there's moments of alarm and tension, but mostly it's like, oh, this is heavy. This is,
Yeah.
and I think, I don't know, people don't want to label that horror for some reason. I don't know why.
I think there's still this prejudice against genre fiction, and people think if you get labeled as horror that you're somehow less than. But I think all horror writers are just trying to make people uncomfortable in a different way. We just have different ways of exploring that, and I don't think that necessarily is scary. It's just discomfort. You need to explore it. You need to sit with it. You need to see how it makes you feel. And there's so many different ways to do that, and none of them is right or wrong.
Right. Yeah. And I was going to say that, I don't know, there's lots of, I feel like lately there's been a discussion about that's been examining proper literary fiction that is actually has been horror all along, and we just haven't ever labeled it that. I think Joyce Carol Oates is, I think, like the biggest of those names, who's still working, who's still alive. But there's, I think, other authors like, Cormac McCarthy.
Hmm?
Blood Meridian is a horror novel. I mean, it is, sure, it's literary, sure, it's hard to read, but it's also a horror novel. Like, there's lots of those books out there, but they don't. I think you're right. We can't. The scourge of low art. We have to fight back. We're smart people. We don't write about horror. I was at a writing group thing last night, and I was asked about MFAs, and people didn't understand what an MFA type was. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want to talk about this. It'll make me start complaining. I'm like, it's not good. It's pretentious. It's very pretentious. So was the revisions in this difficult at all? That's like, these are very like nuts and bolts mechanical questions, but I really am curious, because it's like, this feels like a nightmare, because you're bouncing back and forth between two perspectives constantly in the chapter. Was it hard?
I was actually hoping somebody would ask me this question.
Okay, good.
Because, believe it or not, this was the easiest book I have ever written. It took me 8 months to write, but that's only because I was doing other things in between, and I was doing a lot of research and reading books for it. But when I actually sat down to write, it came very easily. When I was finished with it, I went back to edit it myself, changed very little, hired my editor. She changed very little. And then it went to my copy editor. And from there, I mean, I think the thing that helped the most, I pantsed it. And when I found that when I pantsed, it actually needs less revision. And I also knew who the characters were so well that it wasn't hard for me to switch in between their voices. And they're so different. It's not like you have two similar characters and you have to think about tiny little differences. These are big differences.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, I was writing towards something and I knew where I wanted to go. So when it was done, it was basically done, which was a great feeling. I wish every book could be like that.
I was going to say, that's the dream. That's the thing I reach for that I'll never touch. Did you write it bouncing back and forth as like linearly, just as it went?
Yep.
Okay. I'm even more impressed, because I can imagine, like, I'm doing a book with two perspectives, but I wrote all one perspective and all the other, and I can't imagine trying to jump back and forth, especially in a chapter. Like, there's no breaks. It's like, it's just like, hey, you read Darla, and then there's Ellie. There's Darla, here's Ellie. It's wholly unique.
Thank you.
I don't know. I say that there's like 10 million books in existence, so maybe there is something else like this that we don't know about. But as far as I know, there's nothing else like this. We're running out of time for the first segment, but everyone should go read A Veritable Household Pet. Comes out this week. It'll be out in 2 days. The day this episode drops. So if you're listening to this on the day it drops, you can get in a last second pre-order, or just buy it in 2 days. Or obviously, if you're listening to this 5 years from now, and Viggy's probably a big star, coming off her third Stoker win or something. I was going to say, you have to manifest these things. So I'm
manifesting.
I try and do that for people. You should go read A Veritable Household Pet. It's time for the second act. Broader bookish questions. I was saying this beforehand, but I'm going to try not to repeat any questions for you, even though you probably might have new answers for some of them. So this is your first question is from our last guest, which is Caitlin Starling,
Yay.
and she was actually reading this book she was saying that as I talked to her. Her question is, what is the weirdest trick you use to make yourself right?
Huh. Okay. I may have told you this before, but I like to listen to ASMR videos while I write, and especially the ones with no talking. And ASMR, if you don't know, it's just sounds. It's like clicking and tapping and crinkling. I don't know, but it just gets me to focus, because if it's too silent around here, I just hear my dog panting or, the wind outside or something. And ASMR just really helps me focus. I put it on whenever I'm doing anything that requires any sort of concentration. And it works every time.
I almost got a spit take from me when you say I hear my dog panting.
I can hear him right now. I hope you can't.
No, I can't hear him. Tater tot, right?
Tater, yes, good memory. Tater tot.
I think that when you're alone in your house and you just hear the noise of an animal in the background.
Yeah.
I just immediately. I'll ask you for a question for our next guest at the end of this. Well, I don't have to ask this question because you just answered it. Do you only listen? Here, I'll do it anyway. You only listen to ASMR. Do you ever listen to music?
Sometimes. When I was writing The Rotting Room, I think we talked about this before, I listened to Gregorian monk chanting because, it was the vibe.
Right.
I listen to music a lot of other times, but I don't want to listen to anything with words. Otherwise, it's too hard for me to write my own words.
Okay. Do you use music as inspiration for anything?
Sometimes. More often, if I'm writing something and I hear a great song that really fits the vibe, I see it in my head as a movie, and then I make a playlist on Spotify. All of my books have playlists on Spotify, so you can go look up the title and listen to what I think the book sounds like.
Okay. Awesome. I'll ask here a connected question. What color do you connect to a veritable household pet? If you had assigned a color to the book, what color would you assign it?
I would actually assign it the color of the cover, this kind of sickish green blue. It's exactly what I was picturing more or less when my cover designer gave it to me. And yeah, I picture it. It's a little bit retro. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You don't know exactly what it is. And also, it's a color I haven't seen on a lot of other books.
Yeah, your covers are always great.
Thank you.
I follow your designer on Instagram. I'm like, maybe I should use him for a cover. Probably look really good. Let's see. This is a question that Emma E. Murray asked Caitlin Starling, but I'm going to ask you because it's a great question. I think I'm going to use it almost every episode now. What's the hardest scene or character you've ever written, and what made it so difficult?
Oh, okay. This one is at the top of my mind, so that's what I'll go with. The scene in A Veritable Household Pet where Darla actually gets the lobotomy, that was hard to write, somewhat emotionally, just because it's a very emotional scene. But also, I had to do so much research because, you can imagine there's not a lot of firsthand experiences of what it feels like to get a lobotomy, or even people necessarily describing what it's like as they're watching it. Yeah. So I had to imagine a little bit and try and make it as realistic as possible, but also bring in the emotion because I always want my readers to feel something. So that was difficult, but like the rest of the book, it came pretty easily once I had my research down and I knew who my characters were, but it was difficult. I'll say that.
It's difficult to read. I'll tell you. You go in knowing this is a lobotomy book. You know that, but it's still like, well, I have to face it. Face a child getting a lobotomy. You're like,
yes, you will.
Okay. Let's see. What is your gateway horror media?
You meaning like movies or books?
Yeah, anything. Yeah, first stuff that got you into the genre.
Oh, Goosebumps in terms of books. Quickly graduated to Stephen King after that. And then the original It, still one of my favorite movies. We had the VHS. It was on 2 tapes back then. Loved that one. And then The Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. Loved that guy. Loved him.
Tales from the Crypt is great.
Mm-hmm.
90s Tales from the Crypt. We all have those are, I would say those are all similar answers to me. Even though my Stephen King made for TV movie was The Langoliers,
Oh, I love
not
that one.
not it. No, I'm glad that someone else has seen it because I feel like me
Criminally
and
underrated. It's so good.
the effects are terrible, but
Mhm.
otherwise it's solid. Like
I
it
think
and
so.
it yeah, and it's good acting and like
Mhm.
I don't know. I always whenever someone asks where's the time gone, I'm like, well, the Langoliers ate it. The Langoliers came for it. When do you know something is done?
Hmm. I usually have a final line or a final scene in my mind. Maybe not at the beginning of the book, but at least towards the middle, I know what I'm writing towards. So as soon as that happens, then I know I'm done. And I am not one of those people who wants to constantly fine tune it. I want it to be done as soon as possible. So once I reach that, and once I've had several people look over it, my editor and everything, I'm like, okay, my mom is the last person to read it. And once she says it's good, then we're good.
We've we talked about your mom on the
Yes, my
other first
wonderful
time.
mom.
Your wonderful mother, uh, which I still think is incredible. I would say my dad does read my books, but I would not trust him to be like the final word on if the book is ready. He doesn't like my dad doesn't like tragic endings.
Oh.
He gets upset at me every time I end a book that's with a tragic ending. I'm like, Dad, I write horror books. Like they're
Mhm.
not. He's like, I don't think of them as horror books. Well, I'm like, you should maybe do that because
You
it
should
would.
maybe, yes.
Yeah, maybe you
Expand
should
your
maybe do
definition.
that. Yeah, exactly. Um, mm, mm, mm. Describe your writing in one word.
One word?
One.
That's so hard.
You can use a compound word.
Okay, I'm gonna use somebody else told this about me, so I don't wanna be like, again, pretentious, being like, "This is how I describe it," but I think this hits it. I'm gonna say elevated.
Elevated.
Can I explain?
Sure.
Okay, so I had somebody compare some of my books to some of the A24 movies like Hereditary and Midsommar.
That's fair.
They have kind of they're not slashery, they're not gory, but or sometimes they're gory, but they have kind of an artsy hint to them, and that resonated with me. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
I would here. I can append to that and make it
Yes.
sound less pretentious.
Okay.
Say it's artful. They're
I like
artful.
that.
Yeah. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like people like say that about A24 movies. They're like, oh, they're different than normal horror movies. I'm just like, I think we are just so like, we're coming back to that what is horror discussion again. But
Mhm.
I think people jump to Jason and Freddy
Yeah.
or like a movie like Saw. Like they think of
Mhm.
like these of different eras, but it's always like these big tentpole bloody things
Mhm.
that probably some, especially as you get into later sequels, are not necessarily art first is not what I think of. They're like, oh, we need to make money. I think A24 movies are like, well, they're artful.
Yeah.
They're trying to they're making every piece of the film is choices.
Mhm.
It is it's and people want to ascribe elevation to that because it's just good art. I don't like it's not I don't want to call it like I would say there's also like there are gross, awful, bloody horror movies that are also artful, but people don't
True.
ascribe that to them, I think. So
I
I
like
don't
your
know.
word better. I'm gonna take your word, artful.
Artful over elevated? I don't know. I
Yes.
think they go hand in hand, but I think it is just less pretentious when you say it's artful.
Yes. I don't wanna sound pretentious, but
You're not
one word is so not enough. It's not
uh,
enough.
that's why I like the question. I like putting people in the hot seat. Um how do you come up with character names and do character names change throughout drafts?
Hmm. I feel like my main character names come really easily. Like, I always knew she was Darla, and if you've read my other books without giving away any spoilers, you knew it had to be Ellie. The other names are kind of just whatever pops in my head that sounds distinctive enough that people won't get confused. Because I think we've all read books sometimes where, all the characters start with A or they all sound too similar and you're struggling to remember who is who. So that's what I keep in mind. But for the most part, it's just kind of like, boom, that's it.
That's I I'm going back and forth on a character name right now and it's driving me absolutely batty. And I feel like I'm jealous. You're just like, oh, it's easy. You just do this. I'm like, I needed to mean something. I don't know if I see this book. I don't think I see this question. You are early. So, what was the last book you read that evoked a visceral physical reaction?
Oh, okay. I read 114 books last year, so I'm trying to remember.
Oh my God.
A lot of them evoked visceral physical reactions, but I will say one that I really, really remember was a book I read for research for a veritable household pet. It's called The Ice Pick Surgeon by Sam Keen. It's nonfiction. Each chapter is about a different kind of medical history type thing. And as you can imagine from the title, there's a big section about lobotomy. And he spares no details. There were parts of that book that I had to skip over because they affected me so strongly just in terms of, I mean, yes, I know I'm an epidemiologist, but I'm squeamish. So I did something that I did not want to hear about. So I will say that one. It is an awesome read and I always recommend it, but parts of it are hard to get through.
Okay. I originally wasn't going to ask you again, but I think I'm just going to ask you again because I do want to know, do you have more recs for us? I ask everybody, more people should be reading. You gave me a long list the first time. Do you have any more people you'd like to?
I can't remember what I told you before, but I'll say Sam Keen, who wrote The Ice Pick Surgeon. He also wrote one I read this year that was one of my favorites. I think it's called Dinner with King Tut, and it's about archaeology, which was very interesting. I listen to a lot of nonfiction. It's hard for me to listen to a fiction audiobook. Who else? I love Emma E. Murray. I love Caitlin Starling. I know they've been previous guests of yours.
They're literally the last two guests before you. So.
I know, as soon as you said that, I was like, yay, I know them. They're awesome. Dawn Kurtagich, she's really awesome too. She has a book coming out called The Seventh Sister, which I blurbed.
Spoilers: she will be on this podcast in a couple.
No
I think
way.
a month. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. She's awesome. And yeah, if I need to stop myself because if I keep going, I'll just keep listing people.
I mean, that's fine. I needed. There's so many authors. There's so many, and people. I'm like, I look at them. I'm like, wow, you've published a long time. You've published a lot of books. People know but I've never heard your name before. How is that possible? I'm like, just because there's so many books, so many people. So many. We live in a big wide world. Okay, I should have taken note as I was reading Veritable Household Pet, but I'll ask you anyway. This will be the last question for this segment. Do you use semicolons in drafts?
Yes.
Okay.
Do people not?
I almost never do.
Oh, I love a semicolon.
Okay, good. I feel like there's like this world. I had a Royal Paw on and we talked about semicolons and I'm like, wait a second. And then I'm like, I never reach for them when I'm writing. I will add them in revisions, line edits. I'll be like, oh, this is a good spot for a semicolon. I'll realize after the fact. But I'm almost never, even though the moment I was made aware of it, then the next day I put a semicolon in a spot because I was like, oh, that is a good spot for a semicolon. But
I never thought about it. I mean, I prefer an M dash. I will always reach for an M dash.
Exactly.
I prefer those over semicolons, but I do use semicolons when the occasion calls for it.
Okay. I mean, commas really is what I have so many commas. It's such a. At this point, I feel like maybe I should just embrace the comma.
Why not?
And have 10,000 commas in my novel. I feel like maybe I should just be the comma guy. Maybe that's my actual path to publishing is be the comma guy. Robbie, man, he's just a lot of commas. What's your question for our next guest?
Can you tell me who the next guest is?
It is Douglas Ford, my Florida buddy. We're going to talk about his new book, The Bloody Bucket.
Okay. I am not familiar with him, so this is going to be kind of a shot in the dark.
Sure.
I should have known that you were going to ask me this and come up with something better, but Okay, I'll ask one that people have asked me and I always like answering it is what kind of research do you have to do for your books and how much?
Okay, that's a good question.
Okay.
The Bloody Bucket is I'm going to spoil. I blurbed The Bloody Bucket.
Okay.
And it's great. It's incredible. Maybe the best book about Florida that I've ever read.
Cool.
Although I don't know. I'll say I haven't read The Reformatory yet. That's been on my TBR for a very, very long time. Which is also a Florida book. But Doug's the chair of the Florida chapter of the HWA.
Oh, cool.
But so I don't know if y'all ever event together with me, I will introduce you to Doug. Doug's great.
Great.
But there is a lot of Florida history in the Bloody Bucket, so that's a good question. Kind of research. And I'm trying to spread the word because the book made me cry, so I really
wow,
I really liked it.
That's awesome. Not that you cried, but like that it made you feel.
I mean, I was gonna say, if a book can make me cry, like that's the highest praise.
I think so too, because that means you felt something that deeply. That's what I try to do. I'm not that I'm trying to be out here making everybody cry, but some people say they needed a hug after reading this book, and I was like, yes.
I mean, it leaves you with a very, like, you're like, oh, like that kind of empty. I'm gonna go walk my dog.
Yep.
You know, that kind of thing, just to be redeemed. You know, to feel it. I don't know. It's good kind of catharsis. I know that's why we read horror. I think most of us is like we like
100%.
that. Yeah. All right. That's it for the second act. I've asked you enough questions, bombarded you with new ones. It's time for blood. It's time for our third segment. It's time for trouble, for hardship, for struggles with anything. It could be nuts and bolts, philosophy, ethos, whatever it may be, business. We have had lots of business stuff lately. What do you got?
Just anything I'm struggling with?
Yeah, anything.
I don't remember what I said. Did we do this before?
We did do this before.
Okay, I don't remember what I said before.
I don't either, so you're good.
I'm going to say marketing. And again, I don't know if I said that before, but it is something that is constantly changing. And especially I'm pretty active on social media because if you're not, I don't know how you ever tell people about your books if you're self-published or an indie. So spending hours on a video being like, this is going to go viral, it's going to be great, and then nobody sees it. Or, I take one for 10 seconds and then 10,000 people see it. So I would say constantly finding new ways to reach readers, to market, to get my name out there. It takes a lot of time and effort, and it's almost a full-time job alongside the writing.
I'm with you. I hate it. I absolutely despise the thing about the videos that I think we've all had. Oh, I made this really cool video for social media. It took me an hour and a half to edit just the way I wanted to do. And then no one sees it. Instagram or TikTok or whoever doesn't push it. Whatever supernatural curse or magic or spell you have to cast on it to get it to go to other people doesn't happen. And you're just like, oh, why did I could have wrote a whole chapter. Why did I make a stupid video? No one saw.
Yeah, I remember I made a video. It took me a lot of effort because for the Rotting Room, one of my blurbers, Mona Kabani, described the book as being like gothic butter. So I made an entire like commercial where I was advertising gothic butter, and I made gothic butter. It was just chocolate mixed with butter, and I filmed this whole like kind of commercial QVC style ad for it. And I was like, this is hilarious. And then like nobody saw it.
That sounds like I didn't see it. I follow you. Oh, this is the thing.
I think it's because I didn't film it in the TikTok app, and it doesn't like things that you don't film in the app.
I got off TikTok also. Switched. I'm only on Instagram, which I know is not good for my sales, but TikTok was also, I believe, driving me literally insane. So I was like, I can't.
I have to limit my time on there for sure.
It's just, I think it's just the constant, the noise is more than I think it's the sound more than anything for me, where it's like this constant. So many people don't use captions, and video doesn't. This is just me broadcasting this to anyone listening. If you don't have captions on your video, I'm not watching it. I'm sorry.
I sometimes don't have captions. I'm sorry.
I'm not telling you have to change from my account. I'm just saying that anyone who doesn't ever have a caption on their video and they're talking, I'm like, it's not universal. I won't. There's sometimes I'm like, oh well, okay, I'll listen. I want to know what they're saying. But sometimes I'm like, yep. I'm in the middle I'm in my living room. My dog and my wife are sitting there. I don't want to bombard them with the video too. I am so sensitive when other people do it to me, play videos in public or sound, and I'm so sensitive. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not watching it. I always put captions on my videos, even though it's a pain. Captions are a pain. You got to correct them because they're always wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you're great at marketing, though.
Oh,
That's
thank
what
you.
I mean, it feels like it. I don't know. That's what I always do. I'm like, oh man, I wish I was as good as Viggy was.
Oh,
Viggy's
thank
like,
you.
it feels like it. I don't know. Do you
I'll
not feel
take
like
that.
you're?
I will take that compliment all day.
Do you
Thank
not
you.
feel like you're good at marketing?
I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. I mean, I guess my first book published in 2024. So I started doing it there and I've kind of seen what works for me and what doesn't. But it's slow. I mean, I also do social media for my mom's bakeware company. Let me tell you, I made a video of me cutting a pie. It was not a pretty pie, I'm not gonna lie. It tasted great, but it was ugly. 22 million views. And I'm like, why did I not put a copy of my book in the background of this video?
You know, you should just do that from now on.
That's what I told her. And I don't get it because that's the thing I don't get about social media. All of her videos are her cutting stuff in her pans. They get hundreds of thousands of views, like every single one of them.
I don't know. I feel like there is something very satisfying about watching like just a nice baked thing getting like cut and
Or an
portioned.
ugly thing. Most people are just commenting, telling me it looked like a piece of crap pie.
Well, I mean, that's unfortunately there's lots of people who have nothing better to do in their lives just put like ugly comments on videos, and I'm like, what are you do? Like, I don't have time. I don't have time in my life to like spend writing like, oh, that's good about anything. Not to mention, who cares if it's an ugly pie?
It did taste delicious.
Yeah,
I will say that.
What kind of pie was it?
It was a vegan pumpkin pie. Yes, that's what most people's reaction is. They're like,
I mean,
it
that's
was
not
delicious.
okay. I mean, it's not. I don't know. I like obviously of all baked goods, a pumpkin pie is like I feel like the easiest transition into vegan. And I know vegan baking has gotten a lot better than where it used to be. I'm
Yes.
just immediately. I just like as I am an avid baker, so you know it's like it's all those chemical processes, and when you remove animal products from them, you know, butter and milk and you know all that, like those are important. You can put in other fats. Just I don't. We don't have to make this a baking podcast. I could easily do that, but I feel like there is this. I think it's that I at least am very much like I like to know if I put this much effort into a thing and make it as good as I can, it will do the thing. But then you're like, well, I did the thing and it didn't do anything. Nothing mattered. No one saw it. I didn't sell any books. I just wasted a bunch of time. And I think that's a frustrating thing for me.
It is frustrating.
Where you're like, I put in this much work. Therefore, X equals work equals book sale. One, maybe. Once I gotta make one sale. I don't know. I think we all have this. I do. You know, I think once we talk about it, different authors, we always are like, I don't know. There is this aspect of like, oh, it seems like other people's social media is so good. And then you're like, and then you talk to them and they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
No, I don't think anybody does or can. Even the people who say I'm an expert in this, it's always changing. I mean, it's hard. I feel like I'm focusing more on using it as a way to connect with people, like building relationships with other writers, with readers. And that I think has helped more than anything because people, if I kind of know them, then they're more supportive, they're more engaged, they're more active. And then in turn, all of my social stuff seems to do better. So that's, I think, more useful in the long run too.
Than trying to go viral. Than trying to make a single video that inexplicably gets promoted, which you have no control over. And I think you're right. I mean, like it's part of the reason I started this podcast. It's like connect to people, try and sell some books, talk about writing, all that stuff. I don't know. I unfortunately don't have. I think this is the advice. Is like it sucks, but we have to do it.
Try everything and experiment. And
yeah,
I am just also not afraid. Like if somebody like insults me, which happens way more on the baking videos than it does on my own videos. Well, but if it happens, it rolls off me. It's whatever. I also will read most of my reviews, and I don't care if they're bad because if somebody left their opinion, thank you. You took the time to read my book. It's great.
I don't mind a bad review when they actually read the book.
Yes.
But it feels like there are times I've seen some bad reviews of my own where I'm like, they didn't read the book.
Yeah.
they read a chapter of my book, or they got to a point in the book where, I don't know. There's this particular review of my gay redneck vampire book, and they just said I feel like they just are homophobic. They found out the character is the main character is gay, and they went immediately like, I don't like it. I'm like, okay, what? You didn't read the book. You stopped. You got to
or rate it if you didn't.
Then yeah, don't review it if you didn't read it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though, but if they're explicitly homophobic in a review, then that's actually, I don't mind that, because it tells people who just are happy to read a gay character in a book. They're like, oh, this is a book for me. Social media. I think I might be off Instagram for the day. It's just too much right now. But that's a different topic. That's nothing to do with books. I don't know. I was going to say, I think your attitude is the right one. It's, I think, an attitude I've also tried to just do whatever. If you have a fun idea, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel too much pressure to make just endless, nonsense.
Yeah.
Treat it. I try and have the mindset of like, treat it just like I would treat my writing, where it's like, oh, I have this idea for a fun thing I can make. It's creative. Who cares? And no matter how many people click a heart on it, it was fun to make.
Yeah.
It's fun to do. Right.
Exactly.
I would like to sell some of my books with those videos, but that
would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing you kind of have to let go of. Like, sometimes people are just they're not going to buy the book for whatever reason. Or
sometimes one bookstagrammer will post about it and you sell 1,000 copies.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of authors would just see, like, we wake up and we click on it, and you're like, what happened? Why did I sell? You're like, it's good. You're like, oh, that's great. But how?
Yes. Like, how can I repeat that?
Yeah. Can I do that again? Can we just keep that rolling? Can I just do that over and over? No. Okay. Viggy.
Yes.
Where can people find you online? Where can they find your book? It's out in 2 days as of the time this drops. Give people all the details.
Sure. So A Veritable Household Pet is available wherever books are sold, ebook and paperback. There's also a hardcover on Amazon. Releases on January 28th. And you can find me at my website, viggyhampton.com, on Instagram and TikTok at Viggy Parr Hampton, and also on Facebook.
Also, I like that. Also on Facebook.
All the places, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no Threads or Blue Sky.
I have a Threads, but I don't really post on it because I feel like I'm screaming into the void. And I don't have any more beyond that because it just felt like too much.
That's another social media thing, is just pick a place that you like and hang out there.
That's what I've been doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think your social media stuff is good, so I think you understand. That'll do it for us. Thank you, Viggy, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.